Greetings. I'm Howard Gardner, speaking to you from Cambridge, Massachusetts, and I'm very grateful and honored to have the chance to give this talk in memory of Anna Kraft. I had the privilege of knowing Anna for well over a decade. It was a wonderful, life-enhancing experience. We met in 2002 at a conference in Harrogate. The conference had a simple title, Thinking. And that was appropriate for Anna. She was always thinking, listening, probing, creating, reflecting, progressing in her understanding, sharing it with others. It's fair to say that we hit it off, finding many mutual interests, increasingly many mutual concerns. And it proved possible, it was perhaps easier then, to arrange for Anna to be a visiting scholar at the Harvard Graduate School of Education, where I teach, and at Project Zero, with which I've been associated by my whole scholarly life. For 4 years, Anna commuted between England, London or Exeter, and Cambridge, Mass. She became, in fact, a member of our small and devoted research team as we were focusing on intelligence, creativity, and increasingly on good work, striving to do the right thing in challenging circumstances. Our families got to know one another, and indeed, one summer, I think it was in 2003, Anna and her young family stayed in our home on Larchwood Drive near Fresh Pond in Cambridge. They even took care of Nero, our golden retriever. Over the next decade, we remained in close touch, meeting in the US, in the UK, and no doubt in other places. We met at other conferences on thinking, and at other conferences which did not have that lofty a name or aspiration, but where Anna was, as always, thinking and sharing. And indeed, with Guy Claxton, we edited a book called Creativity, Wisdom, Trusteeship, 3 fears which Anna probed and in many cases exemplified. We complemented one another. I think Anna was more philosophically oriented. She'd studied philosophy and kept up with readings and writings in that discipline. She was also more practitioner-oriented than I am. She taught in schools and in the Open University. I would like to believe I helped her to formulate and articulate ideas in ways that could speak to both scholars and to the general public. And our areas of disagreement, or at least differences in emphases, proved catalytic, at least for me. In 2013, Anna was kind enough to come to Boston to the celebration of my 70th birthday and to contribute a wonderful essay to my Festschrift. At that time, we did not know that she was ill. At least I did not know, nor how little time she had left. Her death was a tragedy. Her life was an inspiration. I could easily speak at length about our work together, but I've encouraged to talk about the ideas that Anna and I discussed in her last years, and to bring that work up to date, so to speak. And that's the reason for my topic today, enabling good work in the 20th century. Think of it as a progress report that I would have liked to share with Anna. The story I want to tell begins in the middle 1990s. 3 middle-aged psychologists, Mihai Csikszentmihalyi, Bill Damon, and I, were fortunate enough to spend a year at a retreat on the Stanford University campus, the Center for Advanced Study in the Behavioral Sciences. We knew we wanted to work together on a project. We had applied to the center as a trio, but we needed time, space, and freedom to reflect and to define a project. Our initial interest, whether individuals could be both creative, the special interest of Mihai and mine, and humane or moral at the same time, this was Bill's area of expertise. And over the course of the year, we developed an empirical research project which we named, perhaps predictably, Humane Creativity. Neither the name nor the project itself had been adequately formulated. In the ensuing period, the late 1990s, we went back to the drawing boards and to our word processor and decided to study what we soon came to term good work. In a nutshell, we were interested in how individuals in different professions thought about their work and especially about the kind of work and the kinds of workers that they most admired. To find an answer, we and our research team, ultimately a few dozen researchers on 5 campuses, carried out semi-structured interviews, often lasting an hour or more, with approximately 1,500 individuals in 9 different professions or lines of work. From several perspectives, the project was quite successful. We learned a great deal about a range of professions. We wrote a summary book, as well as 9 other books and numerous articles and reports. The work attracted some attention both in the United States and abroad. And, always important for scholars, it launched further lines of work that continue in several laboratories till this day. Good news. No need to read all those books. I believe it's possible to summarize the principal concepts and findings with reasonable succinctness. Good work has 3 intertwined properties. It's performed excellently, it's personally engaging, and it's carried out in an ethical manner. We think of these as a triple helix. On our analysis, work only qualifies as good work if it exemplifies these 3 E's. Otherwise, it's compromised in one or more ways. Drawing now on the research in our own good project work, I'd add the following points. Good work is analogous to good citizenship. A good citizen is well-informed, excellent, cares about civic issues, engaged, and strives to do what is best for the broader community, ethical. It's useful to distinguish between the work of a growing child and the work of an adult professional. In early life, one should strive for neighborly morality, living up to long-lasting and widely embraced standards like the Golden Rule and the 10 Commandments. The requirements for neighborly morality aren't difficult to state, and few would quarrel with them, though they may be challenging to fulfill. In contrast, the adult professional is frequently, even constantly, confronted with difficult ethical decisions. These are conundra that could not have been anticipated in biblical times. They presuppose complex occupations. They call for nuanced, profession-specific codes of conduct, the Hippocratic Oath in medicine, the journalistic code of conduct, and the like. The ethics of roles also envelops the role of citizen, as mentioned above. In confronting difficult dilemmas at work or in citizenship, it's advantageous to have a method for considering options. We speak informally of the 5 Ds: definition, discussion, debate, decision, debriefing. Expanding a bit, if one wants to uphold ethical standards, one must recognize the existence of an ethical dilemma. Then one defines the issues and discusses and debates them. Ultimately, it's necessary to reach a decision about that dilemma. And of course, one seeks to make the decision, propose an action that's effective and that can be ethically justified to others, including those who may not have agreed with the decision. But one is not always on the mark. And so sometimes after the decision has been made and effected, one looks back, debriefs, and determines whether one can or should have followed a different course. We posited a developmental course for the ambit of good work. Envision a set of concentric circles. At first, in the tightest one, one's concerned with one's own family. Then in succession with neighbors, schoolmates, colleagues at one's first job. And many of us stop there. But others assume successively expanding rings of responsibility, which includes one's profession as a whole, and, in the broadest case, responsibility to the wider society, which we call trusteeship. There's no imperative to go beyond one's own work circle. But for those individuals who do become leaders or even trustees, they have to be concerned with the quality of work they do, and so do we as the recipients of that work. And we have to be aware, in the less happy case, that the decisions they make and carry out can be destructive. They can have very wide pejorative ramifications. We can see such ramifications with clarity when one contemplates the world experience with COVID-19. individuals with influence, physicians, lawmakers, business leaders, are constantly faced with dilemmas. And while their decisions and actions may sometimes affect only a few persons, they may and often have impacted a much broader swath of society. Until now, I presented ideas which my colleagues and I developed primarily as scholars, researchers, conceptualizers. And indeed, that was the training, the calling that my colleagues, Mike Csikszentmihalyi, Bill Damon, and I had in the first part of our careers. But each of us, as well as some of our colleagues and collaborators, elected to go beyond the usual confines of scholarship. And so, in the last 15 years, my colleagues and I at Project Zero have moved closer to the world of action, of practice, and accordingly, we now operate under a broader umbrella, which we call simply the Good Project. In this vein, we've carried out several distinctive activities. We've made available materials that emerged from our initial study of good work. Specifically on our website, users can access simple sample work dilemmas, the so-called Good Work Toolkit, and what's our most popular item, the value sort. Also available are materials from other good work endeavors, such as the Good Play Project, which was about the constructive use of digital media, and the Good Collaboration Toolkit, how individuals and entire organizations can work together effectively. We've also created a good work curriculum. This consists of a dozen lessons that can be used and adapted at various age levels and for various purposes and constituencies. Recently, we've begun to work with college students. We asked them to create ethical portfolios where they can report their own dilemmas and how they deal with them. Ultimately, we would like to create ethically oriented course materials for the college or university level. We have formed collaborations with individuals and groups in several countries around the world. Notably, among these collaborations are our work with the Dutch Professional Pride Association, the India Tea Gulf, the University of Sao Paulo in Brazil, and the Singapore Institute of Management, and we're developing curriculum for educators who work with Global Citizens Initiative, GCI, a program for talented secondary school students from around the world. To keep track of our activities and to maintain contact with current and future collaborators, as mentioned, we have an active website, thegoodproject.org. This website includes well over 100 papers we have written, as well as regular blogs, now over 50 contributions. We also have a newsletter that comes out several times a year, and of course all of this is available on request. The Good Project continues even as the world also changes, often rapidly, sometimes quite dramatically, not often in ways we would like. While most work in the natural sciences is not materially affected by political and economic events, such happenings are crucial, sometimes pivotal, in the world of human affairs. Since the Good Work Project was initiated 25 years ago, there have been numerous powerful forces and trends in the world. The world has grown ever more interconnected. Like it or loathe it, globalization is now an inexorable fact of life. And of course, the pandemic has brought that fact home to nearly everybody. The bilateral world, communism versus democracy, has now evolved into a multipolar world. At the same time, nationalism and autocracy have renewed appeal and have attained power in many parts of the world. I'm resisting the temptation to show slides here because the list of autocrats and autocratic nations is depressingly long. The accessibility and the virality of social media competes with, when it has not already overwhelmed, traditional forms of news and communication. And alas, fake news proves more viral than well-curated journalism. Neoliberal assumptions and guidelines undergird political, economic, and educational systems and processes in many parts of the world, even as they have been subjected to ever deeper and fundamental criticisms, and this was a particular concern of Anna Kraft's in the last years of her life. Both the learned professions and the major institutions of our society have been severely disrupted. This is due to some extent to their own smugness and all too frequent self-dealing. But the decline of the professions is also due to the aforementioned powerful forces. Some even wonder whether professions and institutions will survive. Others wonder whether they deserve to survive. We've come a long way since that bucolic year at the Stanford Center for Advanced Study, or indeed my first meeting with Anna at Harrogate early in this century. Many of our core assumptions have been severely challenged. We must search for dry land. In large part, this is a challenge for education. Educators, policymakers at all levels need to value the nature and preservation of good work. We need examples, powerful examples, existence proofs, embodiments of professions and professionals and institutions that have worked well, that continue to work well, or that can be fixed so that they work well again. Equally, we need institutions, businesses, governmental agencies, and non-governmental agencies that function effectively and in good work ways. Universities, libraries, museums, think tanks, and the like. What has been termed civil society, though it's sometimes difficult to discern its civility. Moreover, we need sanctions, powerful sanctions, for individuals, professions, and institutions that fail to do good work, as well as prosthetics to help those that want to do better as they go forward. The case for warranted knowledge, the search for truth, is fundamental. Over the long run, good work is not possible in a world of fake news or alternative realities. I close on a very personal note, admittedly a grand one. I'm not myself religious, but I don't see how the planet can be restored without a set of beliefs and practices to celebrate the best features of our species, individually, regionally, globally. In my mind, there's little question that human beings can tackle and solve the challenges of our time. But this can only be done if we're willing to face the threats to the species, which now extend to the very survival of the species. Thinking and research of the sort that our research group has done, and that Anna Kraft carried out with such skill and vigor, will be essential. But in my personal view, it's far from sufficient. Such scholarly work will also require linkage with beliefs and practices, the texts and the rituals that have animated the major religions of the world. Too often, these religions have struggled with and against one another. A truly global belief and action system needs to relinquish the struggle and find common ground. What was once God's work needs to become good work. Thank you for your kind attention. It's been an honor to remember and to celebrate the contributions of Anna Kraft.